Welcome everybody. My name's Adam Thompson. I'm currently OCA Senior Academic Manager. I'm overseeing Fine Art Programme. Previous to that, I have been the Programme Leader for the Fine Art course, and I'm an artist myself and an educator, so got lots of experience with OCA, and hopefully I can address lots of your questions today. I'm going to do a presentation. I'm going to screen share my slides. Just bear with me while that opens up for you. If you have any sort of technical issues or questions whilst we're speaking, whilst I'm speaking, just drop those into the chat and I'll try and pick those up as and when. I'm going to assume you can see the first page of the slide nice and clearly. Welcome to the open day for the BA Honours Fine Art Programme. It's the BA Fine Art Honours at the Open College of the Arts, part of the Open University. I'll thank you for the thumbs up. It's good to know that everything's visible. There's various different sections that I'm going to cover in the presentation. Like I said previously, I'm not going to speak to each slide word for word. Recommend perhaps you can look at the recording of this and read through the presentation in a bit more detail, and we'll pick up with any questions that maybe arise from the slides towards the end of the session. But generally speaking, the Fine Art Programme provides a flexible way to develop your creative practice through a wide range of diverse, practical, exploratory and critical activities. It's a part-time degree, it's open access and supported distance learning experience. The programme inclusive platform, let someone else in, inclusive platform to engage with undergraduate study, and our students are empowered to discover their unique creative voice and understand how it aligns within the contemporary art landscape. That's a very brief overview of the fine art course at OCA. You'll see on the right hand side there, these are different chapters of this slideshow that I'm going to talk through in a bit more detail this morning. I'll be talking for about 15, 20 minutes. So you might want to take a couple of notes or just, like I said, put some questions in the chat that I'll pick up towards the end. The last section there, questions, will open the floor for a bit of a Q&A time. Okay. So what is OCA? Well, OCA is an open access online provider of higher education courses based in Barnsley in the UK. We're based in the UK, but we do have quite an extensive international cohort of students, all at various stages on the programme, various different programmes, all of different levels, being the fact we're open access. Students don't need any prior qualifications to join OCA. We were created by Michael Young in 1987, so we've got an extensive history of online arts and design, creative arts education generally. Michael Young was one of the founders of the Open University, and he championed the idea of offering high quality arts courses under the guidance of experienced artists. So all of the tutors on the Fine Art Programme and all of our programmes at OCA are active practitioners in their own right, exhibiting internationally, and obviously very qualified and experienced in higher education teaching at the same time. A couple of years ago, we formally joined up again with the Open University, and we're now the subsidiary college of the Open University, and they credit all of our degree awards. Just to note, the image on the right there is a fine art student work, and you'll see images throughout this slideshow that obviously come from all of our student body, some current, some alumni. So online learning, it's a bit different to the traditional bricks and mortar university. So online gives you the opportunity to study remotely from any location, whether you're in your home, in an office, whether you're on the train, moving around. There's lots of flexibility on how and where you can learn. You access the course materials at times that suit your personal schedule. We have a lot of students who are working or have family commitments or traveling, etc. And you still have access to all your course materials and can sort of fit it in around your sort of lifestyle. Like I said earlier, we have an international network of students. The majority of our students are based in the UK, but we have European groups, we have students in China and across the Americas. across the board, and we have quite an active student association that brings a lot of those students together. All our learning materials are accessed on what we call OCA Learn, the student site where the course materials and resources are hosted. I'll go into a little bit more detail about those resources and how the courses are structured in a little while. And one of the main aspects of working with OCA, although you're online and you're at distance, you are provided with one-to-one tutor support, quite extensive support relative to a lot of other providers. For each unit, for example, you have approximately 7 or 8 one-to-one tutorials. You have group feedback, and like I said, your feedback is given by practicing artists who are really tuned into supporting and enhancing your practice. We also have a number of group activities in the form of forums, image boards that you can engage with, posting images of your work and obviously feeding back on other student work. We run a number of themed workshops, critique sessions, and we have a very active student community with lots of events, either in person or online. We have some visiting lecturers as well as our in-house tutor lecturing as well. So who's the course for? I'm assuming most of you are here because you're interested in fine art, generally speaking. So I'm hoping the course is for most of you attending today. Obviously, OCA does have a range of courses across art and design practices. There are some similarities between fine art and creative arts, for example. So you might want to compare or attend both of those webinars to sort of see some of the similarities and differences to make sure that you're applying for the right program. OCA is an open access, so it's subject. Oh, let me click back. Open access, so you don't have to have any prior qualifications to study. Basic IT literacy and English language requirements do apply. Obviously, as an online provider, managing email inboxes, being competent in web browsers and things like that is the basic IT literacy you kind of need, really. We have a lot of forums that we like students to contribute to. There's a little bit of a learning curve in just understanding our platforms, etc. once you get started. So the course is also for anyone curious about fine art practice and more generally the expanding field of contemporary art. When I say expanding field, I mean it is a very diverse field in contemporary art that covers a huge broad spectrum of different disciplines and approaches. It's not just a painting and drawing program. We have students working across all sorts of disciplines, combining disciplines, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a future slide. So people who like to learn by making, playing with materials and in creative experimentation. So we are online, but most of the work happens in your space, in your sketchbook, on your desk, in your garage, in your shed, in your studio, whatever it is, however you want to make work. That's where the magic really happens. And we really encourage physical material engagement, and experimentation with materials is key really to succeeding on the program. It's not all screen time. There is obviously elements of research and reading and academic analysis, etc. But the base level of the unit is all about making, exploring the different materials, learning about materials and what you can do with them. We cover a broad spectrum of 2D, 3D and 4D mediums. We cover things like drawing, painting, sculpture, print, installation, also time-based media, which comes under that 4D bracket, really, things like photography, film, performance in some cases. The course might also be for people who want to change career, people who want to return to study, or absolute complete beginners. Our courses are designed to cover all bases. You might have a bit of prior experience, you may have had an exhibition before, you might have already a built-up portfolio and be very competent. Similarly, you might be starting from dot and beginning every element of your practice. The course is structured in a way to support all levels of learners. Practicing creatives who want to develop their voice, build a portfolio and take their work in a new direction. And those already working in the industry looking to gain a degree qualification, like I said. So we're covering the course is essentially designed to cover a broad range of learners. Okay, next slide. So an overview of the degree. Like I've said, materials are making like the heart of the fine art degree. We do acknowledge and respect historical fine art practice, but there's not a lot of content that goes back prior to sort of mid-1950s, 60s. We do look at some of the sort of modernist art movements, and we like to ground our students in a sort of broad contextual understanding of art history. But it's more modern art history, really, and a focus on how that shapes and forms the contemporary art landscape. A lot of it is through the acting of making, and through that we have designed a series of 2D and 3D and 4D fine art studios that introduce you to all of these different types of contemporary art practices. And as you progress through the degree, you then have opportunity to sort of refine and specialize in areas that are kind of exciting and interesting for you individually. Like I say, I won't talk about each slide extensively. You can access this document at a later date and read through in a bit more detail. Just reiterate that last line there, though, that each student keeps an online learning log. This is quite an important document. It's basically a blog where you upload images of your work, you write reflection, you take photos, videos of what you're doing on your desk in your sketchbook, and you share your blog with your tutor, and that's where you kind of get feedback at the end of the day from each unit, project and assignment that you submit. Like I said, basic IT literacy is kind of important. So if you're unfamiliar with blogging, we have a platform called OCA Spaces that have lots of ready-made templates and lots of guidance and support for you to be able to learn and progress with that learning log. Okay, so this is a bit of a complicated page. Look, graphically, there's lots of information here, and again, it might be an image you want to come back to and look at. This is a basic overview of the structure of the degree. So on this left-hand side here, you'll see stage 1, 2, and 3, and that is mirrored here in this first column: 1, 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So each stage of the degree has 3 units, and each unit has 10 projects. So you'll see in the first stage of the degree, you have 30 projects to complete. Now you have a total of 3 years to complete all those projects. It's unlikely that you actually need all that time. The maximum time per unit is 12 months. Most students would complete 1.1 in approximately 6 months to 8 months. It varies, and it varies per stage. 1.1 is a very introductory, relatively basic intro to the degree, what it's like to be at OCA, what fine art practice is at OCA, therefore can probably be done in about 5-6 months. Whereas Unit 2.2 or 2.1, right in the middle of the degree, might take you a little bit longer, because some of the creative practical exercises just essentially need more time invested in them. You'll see each unit has its own sort of title. So we start the degree with Studios 2D and 3D. So in your first sort of 6 months of the degree, you'll be exploring drawing, painting, printmaking, sculpture. And then in the second unit of the degree, Studio 4D, where we look at things like photography, moving image, not necessarily performance, but it's an option. But for example, if you're interested in sculpture or drawing, 4D practice can be really useful in learning how to document or thinking about those processes as a time-based medium. Stage 2 goes into a little bit more depth and structure about how you contextualize and think about the background of your work and what meaning you want to generate and how you want to communicate your ideas. And in the next few slides, I'll go into a little bit more detail about the individual stages of study. And you'll see if you complete stage 1 of the degree, there is an option for an exit qualification of a certificate in higher education, what we call a Cert HE, and you get 120 credits for completing that stage of study. And we do have some students who complete 1 or 2 stages with us and then transfer those credits to a different university. You know, we are a part-time distance learning provider. The degree in total to complete all of this mapping is approximately 6 years. That can ebb and flow slightly. Obviously, planning a 6-year degree, things get in the way, life changes, so unexpected things sometimes happen. But there's a lot of flexibility in how we can support you throughout this journey. Like, you know, you can have gaps, slight gaps between units, for example, at the end of the stage, for example. So there's a lot of flexibility within this structure. Right, next slide. I think I've mentioned most of this before, so I'll just hit on the bullet points really. Like I said, stage 1, introducing you into sort of basic visual communication skills across 2D, 3D, 4D media. We're introducing you to a broad range of visual culture and contextual studies. You have access to our online fine art studio that has a range of guidance on how to print make, what paints to use, sculptural materials, how to use a camera, all these basic sort of skills that are very transferable to a wide range of disciplines. We have a range of introductory assignments that sort of support you at stage 1 in developing ideas and practical processes. And I would stress at stage 1, there's no real right or wrong. It's very much about playing, experimenting, learning. We encourage students to sort of fail a little bit by just trying things out. Doesn't matter if things go wrong. It's all about the process. And you're very much assessed on the journey rather than the destination. So we're never looking at a final piece of work and judging it as such. We're more interested in the steps that you took to get to that point. And that's more or less what you're assessed on, relative learning outcomes and things, which I'll speak to in a minute. So at stage 2, this is where students start to build a bit of more autonomy and independence in their study. By completing stage 1, you'll know what your key interests are, what disciplines you want to focus on. You'll be able to communicate your ideas with a bit more context and meaning behind them. And stage 2 really helps you hone in communicating skills and ideas, i.e. there's a lot of elements of collaboration and sharing your work and getting feedback from your peers, and learning also how to give feedback and share your opinion on different people's practices, whether that's your peers or other contemporary artists in the wider field. In stage 3, this is where all your work is sort of refined, honed, and really start to find your position within the sort of fine art landscape. For example, Unit 3.2 is where you're asked to engage in an external project, i.e. professionally present your work to an audience. By the time you reach stage 3, you'll have a whole suite of portfolios to draw on. You'll have built a bit of a network around you of different practitioners. You'll have analysed and mapped the contemporary fine art landscape around you, and you'll be in a position to start actively pursuing a career in the fine art field, if that's something you wanted to pursue. There is an element of critical studies and reflection, and there's a dissertation required at stage 3. The dissertation is approximately 4,000 to 6,000 words, but alternatively it can be in the form of a presentation or a more of sort of a multimedia package, a bit of a patchwork approach to the dissertation for many students. So it's certainly not something to be feared, it's something to be embraced, because at stage 3, the relationship between sort of practice and research is really kind of entwined, and one supports the other and vice versa. Okay, so I mentioned about OCA Learn. So this is a screenshot here of our, well, of 1.1. It's one of our courses. So this is how you access. You'll see 1.1 has 10 projects. And also on OCA Learn, you have a range of other sort of resources and content related to different case studies. We have calendars on OCA Learn to access group events. We have various forums for meeting, chatting about student work, presenting your own work, etc. And the next slide gives a bit more detail about the type of group activities. So these are all hosted on OCA Learn, like I showed you on the previous slide. And often group activities, we have a sort of a live element and an asynchronous element, meaning we have a live sort of 1 hour session where we introduce a topic, we do crit sessions rather, and we also do sort of meet and make sessions. They're live sessions, but they also come with forums. And if you're familiar with what this is at the top here, top right, that's what's called Padlet, which is an online sort of image mood board type platform. And we use those throughout a lot of our group work sessions to enable students to post images and to contribute to group activities in their own time. If you can't attend a physical live one-to-one or group session, there's options and opportunity to sort of engage in these things in your own time asynchronously. So this is some of the tutor team. All fine art tutors are practicing artists and experienced teachers in AHE education, like I said. A combination of professional expertise with a strong background in teaching is a key strength of OCA. We have two types of tutors at OCA. We have flexible tutors who sort of work in their own time, have a number of students that they're sort of managing. But we also have program tutors that are more contracted, set hours per week. And most of those tutors are 1 or 2 days a week. It's worth noting that OCA is a part-time course, and most of our tutors are part-time as well. Like I say, they're active practitioners in their own right. So they work for OCA approximately 1 or 2 days a week, in some cases 3 days a week. But more often than not, they're obviously working on other work and teaching in other institutions at the same time. If you'd like to know a bit more about these tutors and the tutor teams at OCA, they're all listed on our main website, www.oca.ac.uk. Go to the About Us section, tutor page, and you can go and sort them by the degree categories, and you click on Fine Art. All the tutors have listed a bit of background, a bit of information about themselves. Okay, student showcase. So student work is the heartbeat of the programme. It's very important to us, and we like to share it and celebrate it and showcase it as often as possible. There are many opportunities to share your work and feel visible and contribute to this wider student community. We have an annual degree showcase online, which showcases degree graduate student work from across OCA. We also have various other initiatives like programme newsletters, various group showcases, thematic showcases, and OCA Student Association, ACASA, run a magazine called the Edge Zine, which is themed and comes out approximately 2-3 times a year, showcasing student work, not just within the fine art programme, but across the whole OCA community. So there's some internal fine art showcases, but there's also some wider OCA showcases around. Lots of opportunities to share and see student work. Furthermore to that, I think I've covered most of these topics. You'll see at the top here, there's 2 screenshots of sort of Google Meet and Zoom conversations. It's quite common that getting used to those type of group sessions is kind of important to OCA, very much like today. You've signed up, you've clicked the link to join the session. The degree offers lots of these opportunities to join up with Google Meets, either for group or one-to-one sessions. Most of that is facilitated and supported through our OCA Learn platform. I think I've covered most of these things here. We do meet and make sessions. We're approximately every 6 weeks in the fine art programme. We have a 2-hour session where we get this open door session where students can come and chat and make online, have the screen open, or just sit back and listen to conversations. We have a film and book club, which is a monthly, again, discussion around various different topical films, documentaries, and creative content. That's not within the core curriculum of the course, but it's just an extra sort of enhancement activity that we offer. And alongside the curriculum, we do a number of different enhancement activities. And actually from September, we're already scheduling some sessions for the next academic year. Student Association, I think I've mentioned those before. They host lots of regular events, webinars, and some external events. They also manage our student representatives. So each program has student representation across all levels. And as new students, we tend to buddy up new students with the student representatives as sort of a bit of a mentoring and support to get you on board and get you started. OCA Spaces I spoke about, it's our online learning log service, and OCA Discuss Forum is an OCA-wide platform to interact across all OCA programs. So you signed up for fine art, got obviously the core fine art peers that are on the same course as you, but there are also the OCA Discuss forums where you can engage with other students across all programs and all levels. And you've probably seen, if you've come to today's event, you've probably seen We Are OCA. That is the name of our OCA's leading blog for blog posting on our main website. There's usually 3 or 4 blog posts per week, several a month, showcasing different activities at OCA, student stories, tutor news, general OCA news, etc. So keep an eye on the blog. Lots of information being updated there regularly. Okay, on to progression and assessment. So at the end of each project, like I said, for example, stage 1 has 1.1 has 10 projects. So at the end of each project, you're supported by a feedback point. So you finish project 1 in 1.1, you then meet with your tutor, get some feedback, and progress on to project 2. So feedback takes the form of a one-to-one tutorial online using Google Meet, much like this. You'll have previously shared your work with your tutor. They'll look at it, then you have your tutorial, they'll give you feedback. They'll give you a slight sort of some notes and a little bit of written feedback alongside the tutorial, and then you progress. Now, there's 10 projects in each unit. So some of the projects don't have one-to-one support, but they have a group activity. And at other points, usually the midpoint and toward the end of a unit, you have what's called formative feedback. Now that's where your work is reviewed against things like the unit learning outcomes and the assessment criteria, which is where the slightly more formal element of the degree program comes into play. Now, I won't go into too much detail about those specifics in this presentation, but I'm happy to share and talk to you further individually or in the Q&A towards the end of the session. But some of this information is available on our website. When you complete a unit, you are invited to the preceding assessment event. So, for example, you complete 1.1, the tutor signed off all your formal feedback throughout the project, and then OCA hosts 3 assessment events in the year: spring, summer, and autumn. So, for example, if you finished your 1.1 unit in, let's say, May, you would be invited to the summer assessment event, which would be sort of June, July time. You'll be given some instructions to make a selection of your work. You upload that onto a Google Drive folder that's supplied by the assessment team, and then your work is assessed by your tutor, by the tutor team, and it's also moderated by various program tutors at OCA and internal verified across program as well to make sure grades and marks are in line with the sector. At the end of assessment, you get the feed forward form that gives you a brief breakdown of how your marks were chosen and giving you some feed forward on what to improve or what to develop in the preceding unit. We speak of assessment at OCA as assessment for learning. It's not a full stop at assessment. It's about how we can help you to improve. So it's another important key element of the learning process. Okay, just a few more slides and then we'll open it up to some questions. So on OCA Learn, as well as your course materials, you have access to a whole range of other support and resources. There's the student handbook, which is a huge resource of various different bits of information and guidance. If you're unsure about what to do next, for sure there's guidance in the student handbook about what to do. There's also other platforms like Creative Conversations. That's for stage 3 students, and that's where we have a number of visiting lecturers and in-house lecturers giving a sort of lecture/seminar program where students across OCA come in creative conversation with each other. We also have platforms like the Enterprise Hub, which is essentially a hub to explore professional development skills, ethics within the workplace and within the creative industries, and a whole range of sort of professional tips and tricks that more as you progress through the degree. Once you get to stage 2 and stage 3, the Enterprise Hub comes more and more into play once you've started to form your practice. The OU library is accessed through OCA Learn, and assessment guidance is also accessed through OCA Learn. So there's lots of resources. If you ever enroll and sign up onto the degree, you have access on OCA Learn to what's called My Courses section, and you'll see all these blocks and lists into different areas of OCA Learn, giving you huge access to all sorts of information and resources. Okay, how many slides? A few more slides, I think. This is it. So lots of people always ask about future opportunities for fine art, and it varies quite drastically. I mean, like I said right at the very beginning, fine art is such a huge discipline. There's lots of different avenues, lots of different skills, techniques, lots of things that you learn on a program are very transferable to different elements of the creative industries, whether you want to work independently or work within a team, for example. Many of our graduates exhibit their work nationally and internationally. Some of our students go on to study at postgraduate level, and many go on to work in various fields in art galleries, art curation, work in media or education at various levels. We've had students go on to set up their own business and develop enterprising opportunities on their own within the creative arts industry. So studying fine art is a unique opportunity to gain specialist and multidisciplinary knowledge, empowering students to excel in a variety of creative industries. It provides a transformative experience, allowing full immersion in becoming a fine art practitioner. It is a rich and fulfilling journey where you can unlock your creative potential and pave the way for a career in the creative world. But I obviously work at OCA, and I do certainly champion the fine art degree. It's an amazing opportunity. So those slides offer a sort of a brief breakdown of the program. We've got a bit of time left for some of your questions. I don't know if anyone's used the chat box. It doesn't look like anyone's in the chat with any questions yet. But that's the end of the slide. Thank you for attending. We can do a Q&A now, but you might want to just take note of my email address if you wish to email me any questions outside of this meeting. You're more than welcome. adamthompson@oca.ac.uk at the bottom there. Alternatively, if you've got more general questions about OCA, the enrolment process, student finance, etc., I'd advise you just to email the information advice and guidance team at OCA, and they'll be able to address those more general questions. If it's more specific about fine art program, then please do just email myself. The questions in the chat. Alaya, does it have to take you 6 years to complete, or can you complete the degree in less time? I think the absolute quickest you can do the degree is approximately 4.5, 5 years, but that requires significant timetabling and scheduling to meet deadlines, to work almost full time to actually hit that target. So you have to bear in mind that when you complete 1.1, for example, there's a little bit of a wait time between assessment and getting your final marks. So we do a summer assessment, for example, in July. The final marks then get released to students sort of around August or the beginning of September. So when you complete your first unit, you might have 1 months where you're not actually studying, you're just waiting for your ratified results. 1.1 is the only unit where you need to wait for ratified results. So when you get to 1.2, you can submit your work for assessment, and at the same time, you can enroll and continue on 1.3. There's a lot more of a sort of seamless transition between units. Once you've done the first unit, you've gone through assessment, you know the whole process, at that point, it can speed up slightly. But like I mentioned earlier, not all projects and units are kind of weighted the same. You get the same amount of credits and you're expected to undertake the same sort of working hours, but some projects you might be really excited about and you want to just spend a bit more time developing a body of work or investing in different processes and approaches. So yes, it can be done quicker than 6 years, to answer the question, but we are a part-time provider, so 5-6 years is the quickest. So just to let you know, we do have students currently with us who have been with us for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. You actually have a total of 12 years to complete the degree in full time frame. Not all students will take that time, but sometimes it happens, sometimes it's necessary, and that OCA offers the flexibility to do that. Have a bit of a gap between stages, for example, sometimes is necessary. But we don't currently offer full-time courses. Like I said to Paddy a minute ago, we are always looking at different offers and we're looking at changes to curriculum in the future. But currently, we're still only a part-time provider. So the average is 6 years to complete. And COVID put a stop to a lot of that back in the day, and we're slowly starting to integrate a little bit more. What we have is the Student Association. They run a lot of study events in person and online. Tutorials are one-to-one online, but not actually face-to-face in person. They're all online. There are a number of regional groups, study groups, that arrange student-led meetups and things like that. For example, there was more recently a group of students met up at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, spent a day there with the sketchbooks and buddying up and sharing ideas and feedback with each other. There's a lot of sort of student-led activities in that space. And in the past, we have also offered some international trips and study events. For example, the last couple of years, we had opportunities for students to go to Lisbon in Portugal, meet up and spend time in a gallery working there together for a week. So I mentioned earlier, a lot of our sort of group activities are sort of more enhancements to the curriculum. Rather than being core and mandatory, they're sort of enhancements and opportunities if and when the opportunity arises, you can participate. Yeah. They're similar. I would say they do share the same Venn diagram, really. So you've got art in the middle and you've got fine art on one side and creative arts on the other. The main differences is that fine art focuses on, I guess, the three core: painting, sculpture, and sort of more 4D new media. Whereas creative arts at OCA generally focuses more on art and design practices. So that's the main difference, is that creative arts at OCA is more art and design related. Arguably, creative arts is slightly more open, i.e. you've got a bit more freedom to undertake lots of different types of ways of working, what we call interdisciplinarity. So for example, we have various students on creative arts who enjoy writing and illustration, and therefore they're designing and making books and creative drawings and writing stories, and they're combining all those practices into one. Fine art is more geared towards sort of galleries, exhibitions, individual art practitioners working with painting, sculpture, and those more sort of fine art based disciplines. The creative arts has a core sort of structure in the same way of all the units that I described, but it also has what's called the skills hub. which is a suite of approximately 50 micro courses that students can pick and choose any combination of, which enables you to choose maybe a photography micro course and a design micro course and a graphics one and whatever combination of any disciplines, essentially. In fact, the creative arts was the very first degree that was accredited at OCA almost 35 years ago. And it was the main degree and only degree at OCA for several years, and it encompassed all of the disciplines at OCA, and it still sort of maintains that ethos today. Whereas fine art is a little bit more specialist and focused on being an artist within the field of contemporary art.
Okay.
Okay. Unless there's any other questions, I think we'll call it there, if that's all right. I'm happy to stay online if anyone wants to just ask any questions individually towards the end. So feel free to say goodbye and get on with the rest of your day. And we look forward to hoping to hear from you again. If you're interested in enrolling, please do get in touch with the OCA HQ and they'll talk you through the next steps in the process. And that information is also on the website if you need it. So thanks for coming. Yeah, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.